friends, my name is Lorraine, and today I'm here to do my monthly recommendations for the month of March, where we are doing Ownvoices recommendations. And for those of you who didn't know, I started monthly recommendations with my good friend...
Trina from Between Chapters.
Yes! So, yeah, we started this together, and I'm here in town for CFS, so we wanted to do a collaboration because this is our group. We started this together, so here we are. And we're just going to be recommending some books back and forth, but I wanted to start the video off with recommending some resources to find really great, not just Ownvoices novels, which they do have great resources for that, but just diverse books in general. So one of my favorite places is Disability in Kids Lit.
Yes.
It has amazing resources on both books that get disability right and books that show it in a problematic way. So it's nice to know what books to avoid or to recognize why something was problematic.
They also write articles they also have some articles on their website that are really good tips for writers who either are wanting to research disability representation for what they're going to be writing, or just like how the different ways that they have seen it done that they feel like have worked very well.
And my favorite feature on the website is the honor roll. It's so good. One of my goals is to read through the honor roll because, and every book that I've read off of it so far has been fantastic, and it features main characters with a disability, which there's kind of a shortage in YA for that. Even though we have adolescents with disabilities, we don't see them represented adequately within that genre. So that's awesome. And also the gay YA, or I think it's just gay YA, but that's a really great resource for finding LGBTQ plus reads, so books with main characters, side characters, like the whole spectrum there. And that's a really great resource if you're looking for something specifically, like if you want to read a book with a trans main character that isn't problematic. They have lists where you can search out each letter of that spectrum if you want something specific, which is really awesome, because sometimes you just want representation. If you identify as bisexual, you're like, I want to read a book with bisexual main characters. Where do I go? What book can I find that isn't going to be hurtful to me? And they have that representation there, and it's really awesome. There's also We Need Diverse Books, and that is a fantastic resource for both YA literature and children's literature, which is really great to have that for people who are looking for stuff outside of just the YA genre. So there are like picture books and stuff like that, which is really fantastic, especially if you work with kids like I do. That is a resource that I rely on because it's a great way to introduce kids to diversity within their reading and just kind of start early. So I love that. So we will just jump right into our recommendations. So I'm going to start with On the Edge of Gone by Corinne Duyvis, and Corinne actually created the hashtag Ownvoices. So yay for her. That's amazing that we have that resource. But this is a YA science fiction post-apocalyptic type novel that follows a main character on the autism spectrum, and she is trying to find a way to save herself, her mother, and her sister after like this really terrible natural disaster, and the only way to like survive is to be able to get on a spaceship and get out into space and get off Earth. It takes place in Amsterdam, and it reads like a contemporary novel. Despite the setting being post-apocalyptic and kind of sci-fi, it reads very much like a contemporary novel, and it's really fantastic. So if you're into contemporary, sci-fi, or post-apocalyptic, this book is for you because it hits all of those genres.
I really want to read that. That sounds so good.
It's really good.
I'm going to recommend Every Hearted Doorway by Seanan McGuire. This is a story that is about a boarding school for kids that have gone to fairy realms. They found a doorway like in the middle of the woods.
I didn't know it was at a boarding school.
Oh yeah. Like it's these kids have gone to these other worlds and they feel like that's their home, and then they're thrust back into the real world and they don't want to be here. And this boarding school takes them in because it's like it pretends to the parents that it's a school for children with mental illness who are having trouble coping, and like they've made all this up as all like a delusion. So their parents send them there under the guise of getting help, but like the teachers and the staff and all the other students there are like, no, we've been to these worlds, they're real, let's find a way back.
That sounds amazing.
When the main character gets there, a murder mystery starts happening. Like some students turn up dead. And that's the plot of it. It's a very short book.
This book
There's
is
so much happening in it though.
At my house. Like it got there on Friday.
Today's
not Friday. Today's Saturday. Yeah, it got there yesterday because I ordered it from Book Outlet. Oh my god, I'm so excited for this book.
I'm glad
right
I'm
now.
excited for it. But this one has been talked about a lot recently because it does have asexual representation. The main character is asexual, and there's a great dialogue within the book about what asexuality and what aromanticism is, and like the difference between being asexual or aromantic. And I thought that it did that really well. And another main character is a trans boy, and then there are some side characters. One of them is a Latinx boy, and the other one is a Japanese girl. So there's a lot of diversity in this one, and the author has said in an interview before that she is on the ace spectrum herself. She's demisexual, I think.
Demi people.
So I really enjoyed it, and it has great representation, even though it's a really tiny book. So it takes no time to read. Definitely check it out.
Right, coming out.
Yes, a sequel is about to come out, and it's actually a prequel following some of these side characters. And then there's a third book already like listed on Goodreads, and I think that one is maybe more of a direct continuation.
The next book that I have to recommend is Far From You by Tess Sharpe. I know I've talked about this on my channel before because it's freaking amazing. So this book, the main character is bisexual. She has chronic pain, and she's also recovering from a drug addiction. And I know that the chronic pain and the bisexuality rep is Ownvoices. And it is something that, again, is apparent throughout the entire novel. It's not something that's just kind of thrown in at the beginning. You don't hear about it until the end, and it's not used as like some type of plot device as to why she gets into a tricky situation or anything like that. It's really fantastic. If you enjoy Veronica Mars, this is basically like a Veronica Mars episode. It's a murder mystery. So the main character, Sophie, gets out of a rehabilitation clinic, and she's trying to track down the person who murdered her girlfriend. Because she was blamed for it, because they assumed that it was just a drug deal gone bad, but she had been clean for months. And she went to like this spot with her girlfriend Mina, and Mina was shot and died. And she's, she had to take the blame for that, for like a drug deal gone wrong, but it wasn't, and she knows it wasn't, so she's tracking down the murderer, and she will enact her revenge. And it's really amazing.
I want to read that one too.
It's really good.
The next book series that I want to recommend are the Miss Marvel comics. I think there are 3 or 4 of them are out by now.
There's definitely 3.
I think I've read the first 3. The main character in this story is a teenage girl who has just gotten superpowers for the first time, and she is Muslim, and she's trying to hide her powers from her family and from, everybody, because she doesn't want her identity to be busted out. But
like
she
any
is
superhero.
Yeah. But it's really funny, and she interacts with some of the other Marvel superheroes that you know from other comics in their universe. But she's a Muslim character, and the writer of this comic series is also a Muslim woman, and there is a little bit of discussion about like the family, their ethnicity, their background, and also like the religion. She has some scenes where she's like praying, and she's like in the mosque, and her brother is super religious, so it does bring elements of that into it, and I think it's so awesome to have her as a superhero. And it was a really engaging comic, so I would recommend them, but I would probably say read like at least 2 volumes at once, because I always kind of find it hard to get into a comic series with just 1 volume, because
it's just an introduction to who the character is.
It's just like the build-up. So read, like, I mean, they're short, just comics, so you can read all of them. And the artwork is very beautiful.
The next book that I have to recommend is Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruits by Jaye Robin Brown, and this is another YA contemporary, and it's set in the South, so it's set in Georgia, and it follows a main character who identifies as lesbian and Christian, and that's something that I don't see a lot of in any type of media, really, is the intersection of sexuality and faith. And seeing that was really fantastic, especially seeing someone who was comfortable with both her sexuality and her faith was something that I think is needed in literature, and something that I think a lot of, I know especially like in the South, living in the Bible Belt, that's something that a lot of young adults struggle with. Kind of connecting their faith and their sexuality and accepting themselves. And this main character accepts herself fully and has a family who supports and loves her and has friends who support and love her. And it's just a really wonderful book. I do want to point out that there are 2 problematic aspects that have been pointed out to me. So in the beginning of the book, there is a biphobic statement, so I did want to point that out. And there's also appropriation of African American vernacular English with one of the characters in the book. Do you want to point that out? If I can find the reviews that specifically pointed that out, I will leave the links in the down bar below. But there are other parts of the book that I think still warrants recommendation, because again, there just really isn't a book out there that discusses the intersection of faith and sexuality. So I really did love that book.
Have you read the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series?
I've read the first one, and I enjoyed it.
That's the next one that I was going to recommend. But Jenny Han is a Korean author, and the character in this series is like biracial. She's half white, half Korean.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a really great examination of her culture, like her mom and her dad's culture differences.
And
so
it's
she and her
cutesy.
sisters are Korean, and it's such a cute contemporary romance
It's
series.
so cute, and one of the things I loved about this is I feel like I really love, like, badass female YA characters, but, like, Lara Jean,
Either one.
it's literally just like a cute cinnamon roll. And
Yeah.
I think we definitely, like, there's a place for that within the YA universe, like having really cute cinnamon roll characters who like bake cookies and have really cute outfits put together. And it's just nice to see that spectrum of representation for young girls in YA.
She's a very sweet character. She
Yeah.
goes by the rules. But she also stands up against important things, especially more so in book 2, so I won't say too much about it, but there are some really good things happening in book 2 that had like a feminist element to it, but she's such a sweet character, and it was really nice and cute to read that story.
And the last book that I have to recommend is Where the Mountain Meets the Moon by Grace Lynn, and this is the most wonderful fantasy middle grade book I think I've ever read. It is so wonderful. So it follows a main character, so a young Chinese girl who sets out on an adventure to change her family's fortune, and along the way she just meets all these different characters. She meets like a dragon, she meets, she sets out to try to find the man in the moon, or the man of the moon, to ask him how she can change her family's fortune. And it's so good, it's so wonderful. So the main character, that's where the Ownvoices representation is. So it's like a young Chinese girl. It's set in China, and it has like a lot of legend and folklore from Chinese culture. And it has illustrations that are really beautiful that Grace Lynn did herself, and they are so beautiful, like so stunning. But it's honestly, it's one of those books that when I finished reading it, I just felt so content and so happy, and it just like completely lifted my mood. And when I find a book, kind of like with To All the Boys I Loved Before, it just makes you feel so good when you're reading it. It's so happy and just so wholesomely beautiful that you just feel relaxed and really wonderful when you finish it. So that's my last one for the day. So yeah, that's it for today. If you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comment section below. And be sure to check out Trina's channel, where I'm doing some other recommendations, and she has some other recommendations for this video.
Part 2.
Collaboration. Well, yours is kind of part 1.
I guess mine's part 1.
Part 1 over here. Click on Trina's face, because I'm going to link it. But yeah, I will leave links in the down bar below for everything that I mentioned. Be sure to check those out. And thank you guys so much for watching. Stay weird. Are you going to do stay weird with me?
Do you like point?
Stay weird. Little gun finger.
You gotta tell me 1, 2, 3.